What's going on? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Gen X Armor Vet here with a video from YouTube. As you read in the title, you can see in the thumbnail, we have Cam Higbee. He set up a booth or a table over at UW, which is about 3 miles from where I'm at right now, North Seattle. Yeah, to talk to these libtard kids on campus about men can't be women. Let's talk about it. And then, here in Seattle, they're just as woke, if not more woke than California. That's how bad it is here. But yeah, a little context before I start the video. He starts off, he's talking about men can't be women, and there's a lot of back and forth going on. So I got to the more interesting parts. Although the entire video is interesting, I'm gonna put the link in the description box in my video, so you can go watch the actual full length video. But the part I want to focus on is he's talking about, okay, well, if a man can be a woman, then I can be a black man. Hit them with their own logic, right? Because you got to think about it. We got the Rachel Dolezals out there. She went as a black woman for years. No one batted an eye until they found out her parents busted her out. Excuse me. And we all know what happened with that. But the thing is, you could be perfect looking white dude and have 10% black in your family, in your DNA. The whole racial thing, the ethnicity thing, it's more fluid than actual the sex of your body. No matter what you chop off, add to, you're not going to change your chromosomes. You're not going to change your DNA. You're still going to be you were when you were born, a man or a woman. Like I said, you could put stripes on anything. You can change it, but you're still the same person. You just change the outside. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
And that doesn't surprise me, but LGBT isn't the same as trans. And then it's also like when you have all these people are like, oh, well, it's only happening now because it's a trend. You see the same thing with RFK talking about autistic people being like, there were no autistic people like this when I was a kid. And why? Because they were institutionalized.
But the thing is, there were, like you said, they were institutionalized. Even when I was growing up, you know, like research and science and all this other stuff has advanced even since I was a kid, back when, in the mid 80s. We know more about things now than we did back when I was young. Because back then I had, ADD or ADHD. They thought I was just being bad in class. I couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate until you set me in a corner. You had somebody watch me, make me do my work. They thought I was just being bad. I wanted to be a class clown. But there's actually a diagnosis for it. So yeah, like I say, as time goes, the more research we can do, the more scientific fact and stuff we can put into a certain diagnoses, we have an outcome of what we can see. The whole thing with the transgender part, it's just body dysmorphia, the whole, psychological issues, mental health, that's part of what it is. So it's being diagnosed, but people don't want to call it that. That's the same thing as a anorexic person. Oh, I'm fat. I'm super fat. Here she is. You can see straight through her. She had to look like Ariana Grande, but she sees herself. She's Lizzo, or old Lizzo before Lizzo got on the Ozempic and started slimming down. So same thing, mental health. That's the same thing with this whole transgender thing is.
Or lobotomized, right? Like they bring up these things as though they're new issues that are only happening because of social justice warriors and this and that. But really, I mean, the Romans had femboys. Like it's not a new thing.
The thing he's talking about, Romans were femboys. Yeah, were they gay people way back during the Roman times? Yeah, of course they were. Of course they were. There's always, for the heterosexual people, there's somebody who's gay. They didn't classify it as, oh, I see myself as a woman back then. They were just, acted different. So we have it today. Now we put a classification to it because it makes people feel good. So femboys back then, they're still men. So the same thing is going on today. Like today, we just, as a people, we're taking much further for our steps. We're going to actually chopping stuff off, filling stuff in, folding stuff inside out, and getting rid of parts and adding new parts. That's the new thing of what we're doing now compared to they was dressing up only back then because they didn't have the medical knowledge to safely do that without, you know, the person ultimately getting some type of affection and dying from it.
And it's also still a very small thing. And so when people act like it's a way larger issue than it is, like I said, I disagree, or I agree with you on the Leah Thomas stuff. I think the NCAA should not have let it get that far. Okay.
I don't think that it's very small. I think that I don't care what the population percentage of trans people is. I care. One second. I care that the majority of, or at least not, maybe not a majority, but a very large, almost a majority, a slim minority of the people in this country think that men can be women.
That's the thing, because even that small percentage of people that think that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, they're actually trying to get laws in place, and you get canceled if you don't, you know, recognize this person. They want to do woman face, whatever. You don't recognize Bobby is now Tina. You can get canceled. You can get fired. You're the one who's, you know, the dumbass that not looking at, you know, Timothy yesterday as y'all were dapping it up before he went home, and then you wake up the next day going to work, and now he's, you know, Jennifer or Moesha, whoever the fuck. And if you don't recognize that person's mental health issue, if you don't validate them or have empathy for them, you're the one that's in trouble. You're the one that, what's wrong with you? How dare you not say he's a she or she's a he, or don't use their proper pronouns? That's where we are as Americans right now, in North America, the U.S. specifically. I guess they're doing it in Canada too, but yeah, but more U.S. because people see what's happening in the U.S. and they start to adapt it everywhere around the world. So how dare you not, you know, validate my delusion, my mental health issue? Not saying that, you know, people do have actual valid mental health issues. This is just something, this is the most popular thing right now going on.
That is my problem. It's not about how many trans people there are. It's about the fact that a very slim, probably minority of people in this country think that it is an objective fact that men can just be women.
Exactly.
What other people should or shouldn't be. It's not our place to dictate.
Can I be a lizard? Can I be black, actually?
I mean,
I'm a black man. Can I be black?
if
I mean, you can do that. Like, I
want
don't
to say that you will.
You think I can be a black man? I think that's ridiculous.
objectively, like,
I think you can claim to be.
Right, and I think a man can claim to be a woman, but it doesn't make it true.
But the thing is, he actually can be a black person. Because if you go back, you know, how, you know, the racist history that U.S. has, you go back to the whole one drop rule. If it just shows, when he does his whole DNA thing, test, and it comes at, you know, 1% black, because they got like white passing people in the world. You know, I got a couple in my family. They're so light skinned. Even my fiance, she's palm colored. You got white passing, but you look at the mother, you look at the father, if you do her DNA, 50-50 right down the middle. You know, I got like a nephew, you know, my half brother. Kid looks completely white, but you would never know. But yeah. So, like I say, ethnicity, you know, your race, that's more fluid than gender or sex, whichever one you want to call it. To me, they're the same, but whatever. You cannot go from being a woman, no matter what, like I say, what you chop off, what you add to, you cannot change your DNA. It is what it is.
Situation though.
It's not.
The concept of race is very much rooted in physical appearance.
Right here.
And so is being a woman.
Yes, and someone can transition to look
You
like
can.
a woman, and they can change.
So what if I paint myself brown and walk out? Am I black?
Brown is different than injecting melanin into all of the cells in your body.
But that's the same thing that they're doing, right? You know, you're no different. You're like me. I can't just go chop off something and say I'm a woman now. That's the same thing as him being Cam Higbee. He goes and inject himself with fucking with melanin, more melanin, turning his skin darker, or going to get a tan. He's still the same person, but because he's darker now, according to their logic, he's considered a black man. You know, like same thing with a man. You know, I'm gonna go chop off something. I'm a woman now. That he just used their logic against them.
What if I do that? Does that make me black?
I guess, but I think that would.
I'm not a black man.
I know you're not.
I will never be a black
what
man.
I'm saying is that I don't really care how people choose to like identify. Like, I don't think it's an issue.
Would you care if I painted my skin brown and walked around this campus pretending to be black? Would that bug you?
I would say that's more of an issue because it's
Right.
rooted
So
in
how do you-
Jim Crow and blackface.
So
You say it's rooted in Jim Crow and blackface. Jim Crow ended in 1962 or 63, one of those times. That was something completely separate. But as far as the whole blackface thing, you know, people, if like what recently happened with what's that dude's name? I can't think of his name right now. Drewski, when he went whiteface, right? He could paint his body completely white. He wasn't doing it as a spoof. He wasn't doing it, well, he did it as a spoof, but he wasn't doing it to make fun of, you know, white folks. He just dressed up, went and did, you know, the whole NASCAR thing. He fit right in. No one knew the wiser. Where's the wiser? But the whole thing with the whole minstrel shows and, you know, the whole blackface, that was done to belittle black people, to make fun of certain characteristics and stuff like that. Completely different. So if he decides to dress up in blackface or, you know, make his skin darker, or I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie called Soul Man. I got a picture of it on my thumbnail with C. Thomas Howell. You know, him and Radon Chon, you know, he met her because he wanted to get into college, but they were only accepting black students. So what he does, him and his friend come up with this idea. He pretty much paints himself black, puts on an afro. He's able to get in this college because he wanted to be a lawyer. You know, same thing with like Robert Downey Jr. for Tropic Thunder. Remember that? Oh, he's blackface. Okay, he wasn't making fun of black people. So where do you draw that line? You know, same thing, you know, so is, you know, a man chopping all his parts off, dressing up as a wig, you know, with wig dresses, is that woman face? Think about it.
So how do you think women feel when they see men masquerading as women,
Exactly.
claiming to be just as good as an actual woman, claiming that growing out your hair and injecting estrogen and trying to make yourself present as a woman is the same as actually being a woman?
Because I
think it's offensive.
I don't see a basis of hate behind it as the way I do with blackface.
I'm not, well, hate is only based on intent. So if I
Yeah.
paint myself brown without the intent
Exactly.
of being offensive, why is it wrong for me to do it?
Because you'd have to be able to see the historical precedent that comes with it.
I'm not doing it because of the historical
Yeah,
precedent.
he's
The
not.
historical precedent is independent of what I'm doing.
I think the
He's doing it if you were in the same context as a man dressed up as a woman, and he dresses up as a black person, wears baggy, or you don't have to be baggy clothes, you can be regular clothing, you know, the quarter zips, you know, he dresses up, paints himself black, and goes out in society, he just performs like a normal, like everyday black person. Not trying to be funny, not trying to be little, not trying to degrade or demean, just as a normal person. Same thing with what Eddie Murphy did on Saturday Night Live when he dressed up as a white person. Same thing with Dave Chappelle did when he dressed up as a white person for his skits. You know, he wasn't trying to be make fun of. If you just do it in that specific context, it's not whiteface. So same thing applies to as far as what he's talking about being a black man. If he goes to paint himself black, you know, context of just being a normal person, it's not considered blackface, right?
the question is, why would you be doing that?
I think the question is, why would men be pretending to be women?
Because they feel that way.
What if I feel black?
I mean, there's no illegality relating to you doing that. Like, you can do that, and that's fine. That won't change your
But it's
standing.
wrong. You think it's wrong.
I mean, I don't.
The problem is turning it into policy. You take away free choice and action, because I believe there's inevitable social consequences in transitioning or coming out as trans.
That's the thing too, because like they put it in a policy, and a lot of women, especially like these young girls, you see them in high school, you see them in college. A lot of these girls are getting their scholarships taken away because if you have all these top girls in high school competing, and then you got Steven or Brandon or whomever decides, oh, I'm going to be a girl. He comes in and then he runs track and he smokes all the girls because he feels like he's a woman or a girl. He gets that scholarship to go to college. So therefore, the girl that would have came in third place, if it was just all women, she gets kicked out because she's fourth place. There's no place for fourth place. So Brandon, Steven, whomever, the man that's woman facing, first place, and then the actual first person, the girl that was going to be in first place, she's now in second, and the second is now in third. Those are the ones who get the competition. Those are the ones who, get the scholarships. Same thing happened in college with the Leah Thompson thing. Same thing that was going on in the Olympics. That's why they changed a lot of policies. That's why they stripped Leah Thompson's, Michael Thompson, whatever, his medals away, because it's unfair. You got these big, 6'2", 6'3" dudes playing volleyball in the girls' volleyball team, get spiked. A girl caught a volleyball to the head. She got a fucking concussion. Messed her up. She's still messed up to this day. So that's why there's different sports. You know, that's why you got men's sports. That's why you got female sports. You never see the women trying to cross over, come men and compete against men, because no matter how much they lift, no matter how much, you know, testosterone they take, you're still not going to be able to compete with a man in boxing, wrestling, football, basketball, whatever the sport is, because we have denser bones. We have stronger muscles. We have higher lung capacity for more air, bigger hearts. We just biologically engineered to be that way. You never see women trying to compete against the men. It's always the weak men. They can't make it in the men's sport, so they transition over to try to, you know, make something of themselves as a woman.
Right? But and truthfully, while I might not agree with people on a personal level of how they respond, it is ultimately everyone's free choice to respond
Sure.
in their own way to how people present or act. Because that's what
I'm just cut off there because it just goes into some lighthearted talking. But yeah, you have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want with your body. You know, you can do whatever you want, but you don't have, you know, you can't come to me and tell me I have to identify you or, you know, just it gets on my nerves. I don't have to come out and just say that, oh, you're a woman, just because you feel that you're a woman. You know, I don't have to sit there and help you in your delusion. You know, just, you know, as far as you as a man or a woman, you have agency over your body, do whatever you want, chop off, add to, fine. You know, just basically enhance cosmetic surgery, but you are not what you're trying to be. You may look different, but you're still the same pathetic person. To me, you're still the same pathetic person on the inside. Your DNA even shows it. You can't change that. But, you know, I know people will probably say something in the comments. Go ahead. You have every right to do so if you want to. Just know I'm speaking truth, backed in science, backed in biology, backed in anatomy. So you want to come at me with the facts. Not trying to come at me or attack me, you know, personally. It's not going to do nothing to me. You're just going to make yourself look like a dumbass, you know, in the long run. Because you can't argue the facts or the statement. Same thing with Cam. You know, I agree with him 100%. If a man can be a woman, then a white man can be a black man. Or a white woman can be a black woman. Or vice versa. But that's my thoughts. That's my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comment down below. Like I said, I'm going to link for his video in my description box down in the comments area. So, yeah, let me know how you feel about this. Is he right? Is he wrong? You know, give me a thumbs up. Help a brother out. You know, let's get this conversation started. Until the next video, peace.